Chosen one. Listen closely. What you did today did not pass unseen. Heaven bent low, and the Lord himself noticed. You may think it was just a gesture too small to matter, a gentle word, a quick prayer, the choice to forgive instead of fight. But in the kingdom of God, such choices weigh heavier than gold. Picture a desert stone, cracked and dry from years of heat. Suddenly, a drop of water falls, then another. The stone does not shout, yet slowly it softens. That was your action today, a drop of living water falling where it seemed nothing could change. Heaven rejoiced at that drip, because the Father knows how one drop leads to a stream, and a stream to a river. You might feel unseen by people, but you are never unseen by God. There was once a chosen one who spent a long season of waiting, working quietly, serving others with no recognition. In that silence, she often wondered if God had forgotten. Yet, one morning, after she chose to pray for someone who had wronged her, the breakthrough came. Her waiting ended, and doors opened she had never imagined. The small act of obedience unlocked a flood of blessing. Today, your life mirrors that story. Your choice carries more power than you know. The enemy would whisper that nothing changed, that it was wasted. But the truth is far greater. Your obedience sent tremors into realms you cannot see. A hidden seed has been planted, and just as a seed splits underground long before the sprout appears, what you did today has already begun to break the soil. Imagine a painter dipping his brush into bright color and striking the first stroke across a blank canvas. To the untrained eye, it seems random, but to the master, that single stroke contains the whole vision. Your act today was that stroke. Heaven sees the masterpiece that is coming. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Hosea, chapter 10, verse 12. Sow righteousness for yourselves. Reap the fruit of unfailing love. Break up your unplowed ground, for it is time to seek the Lord, until he showers his righteousness on you. Chosen one. Your action today was the sowing of righteousness. Do not underestimate it. The ground is breaking. The rain is coming. God's heart rejoiced because he sees the harvest ahead. Now I ask you, seal this moment. Share this word, so another soul remembers their small steps matter. Leave a comment to mark your agreement with heaven. And subscribe, not out of routine, but to stay connected to the stream of life-giving words that will guide you further. What you did today delighted God. Keep doing it, step after step, drop after drop. You are shaping eternity. Comment 111 below if you receive this word. You may not realize it yet, but each small step of obedience sets into motion waves that will outlast you, like a pebble thrown into a lake. Circles ripple further and further until they reach shores unseen. Today, you threw that pebble. Tomorrow, someone you never met may feel the ripple. Sometimes, chosen one, the smallest yes carries the loudest sound in heaven. Think of Joshua walking around Jericho, one step, then another, day after day, with no wall cracking. Yet, on the seventh day, after faithful repetition, the fortress collapsed. That is what your simple obedience is building toward. You may not see the wall tremble yet, but it is weakening. Do not despise waiting. Every farmer knows the ground looks the same even after sowing. But beneath the soil, a miracle is taking place. Your act today was a seed. Heaven marked the spot where you planted it, and angels have already watered it with unseen rain. Remember this: God delights not in the size of the act, but in the posture of the heart. When you whispered that prayer, it was incense rising. When you resisted anger, it was a sword lifted in spiritual battle. The Father treasures these as precious offerings laid before his throne. Chosen one. Imagine a lighthouse at night. It doesn't chase the ships, it simply stands, shining. That was you today. By standing firm, you became a beacon to someone wandering in fog, even if they never told you. So I say again, keep doing this. Keep solving. Keep shining. Keep trusting. Heaven is not silent. The books of eternity record your faithfulness, and God himself rejoices over you with singing, Chosen One. Let me take you deeper into the mystery of why God's heart rejoiced at what you did today. Many live their lives chasing applause, seeking recognition from people, but you, without even realizing it, offered your obedience as a gift that only heaven could see. This is why it carried such eternal weight. Think of a harp placed in a quiet room. To the world, it seems silent, but the strings still vibrate when touched by a passing breeze. Your act today was like that gentle vibration, subtle, perhaps unnoticed by others. But in heaven's courts, it released a sound of worship that filled the throne room. There was once a chosen one who struggled through years of silence. No platform, no recognition, no clarity. In those years, he wondered if his daily efforts mattered. Prayers whispered, kindness shown, discipline in secret. But later, he came to realize that every act had been building a foundation, one stone at a time. For the assignment God would later reveal, the unseen obedience was the weight that made his calling unshakable. And today, you stand in that same place laying stones heaven is using to prepare something you cannot yet imagine. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 20, the Lord detests those whose hearts are perverse, but he delights in those whose ways are blameless. Heaven's delight is not in grand gestures alone, but in purity of intent. When you acted today, it was blameless in his sight. That is what captured his joy. It is easy to underestimate yourself. The world teaches that value comes from visibility, from platforms, from applause. But God measures differently. He values the whispered yes, the silent surrender, the small kindness no one saw. The angels marvel not at how much you were noticed, but at how much you trusted, even when unseen. Let me paint you another picture. Imagine a potter shaping clay. To the eye of the untrained, the early shaping looks messy, even pointless. But the master potter knows every turn, every pressure, every curve. Today, your obedience was one of those turns, a single shaping movement in the hands of God. You may not yet see the finished vessel, but heaven does, and it rejoices at each gentle press of his hand upon your life. There is another story. A chosen one once faced betrayal. Instead of revenge, he quietly chose to bless those who wronged him. At first, nothing changed, but years later, that very act became the seed that restored broken relationships and saved generations from bitterness. His obedience looked small then, but it turned into a river of healing. What you did today carries the same hidden potential, an unseen ripple that will one day flow into a torrent of blessing. Chosen one, hear this clearly. What makes your act powerful is not its size, but its alignment with heaven. Darkness trembles when light refuses to compromise. Even the smallest spark drives away shadows. Your light today disrupted plans you didn't even know were aimed against you. That is why God's heart rejoiced. It wasn't only about you, but about the lives protected. The battles shifted. The generational chains weakened. Do not let the enemy tell you otherwise. His strategy is always the same: to convince you that your obedience doesn't matter, that your prayers fall empty, that your love wasted. But heaven has already written today's act into its eternal books. What seems small to you is monumental in the spiritual realm. Picture this: a single drop of oil on dry wood. At first, nothing changes, but then fire touches it, and the blaze cannot be contained. Your obedience was that drop of oil. In time, God's fire will fall upon it, and the flame will spread wider than you could ever spark on your own. Chosen one, this is the hidden reason why God's heart rejoiced. It wasn't only about your moment today, it was about the future it unlocked, the inheritance it secured, and the testimony it is already writing. Hold this truth close. You are participating in eternity each time you say yes. Chosen one, remember this: heaven is not impressed by noise, but by faith. Your obedience today became a fragrance rising before God's throne, richer than any earthly crown. It may look ordinary here on earth, but in eternity, it glows brighter than fire. So walk forward without fear. The same God who rejoiced over your small step today will continue to delight as you keep aligning with Him tomorrow. You are not invisible. You are written in His book. And every choice of faith adds another line to your eternal story. Chosen one, your quiet sacrifices speak louder than you know. Every time you denied yourself, every time you chose humility when pride whispered in your ear, heaven leaned in. What looks like loss to the world is actually gain in the kingdom. What feels like silence here resounds like a trumpet there. There is a story of one who endured misunderstanding from those closest to him. They saw only his silence, not the weight he carried. Yet one day, after holding back harsh words and choosing patience instead, he discovered that his restraint saved his household from division. It was a hidden victory, invisible to those around him, but celebrated by the courts of heaven. According to the writings of James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him." This is the promise tied to your hidden choices. Every test endured, every temptation resisted, every sacrifice embraced. It is all shaping a crown you will one day wear. Think of a coal hidden deep in the earth. For years, it lies unseen, pressed and buried in darkness. Yet over time, pressure transforms it into a diamond. Chosen one, your unseen sacrifices are that diamond in the making. What others cannot see now will one day shine with unshakable brilliance. Do not grow weary. The Father is not unjust. He will not forget what you have done in secret. Your whispered prayers, your hidden tears, your silent acts of generosity, they are all preserved. Heaven writes them into a story that hell cannot erase. Now pause here. I want you to mark this truth in your spirit. Not just hear it. Comment below these 3 words. I choose surrender. Write it not as a ritual, but as a prophetic act, declaring that your hidden sacrifices will no longer feel wasted. You are announcing to yourself, to heaven, and even to the unseen darkness, that you belong fully to God. This is why your quiet sacrifices echo so loudly. They carry a frequency that only eternity can measure. And each time you choose surrender, you are shaping your destiny with hands unseen. Your sacrifices are not random moments of pain, they are sacred seeds. A farmer does not scatter grain into the earth and walk away hopeless. He trusts the ground, the rain, and the unseen hand of God to multiply what he buried. In the same way, your surrender today is a seed for tomorrow's harvest. Each tear you shed in silence has been gathered. Heaven does not waste a single drop. In fact, tears offered to God become like holy ink, writing testimonies that future generations will read. The pain you endure now may be the very story that rescues someone else from giving up. Chosen one. Think of gold refined in fire. At first, the heat seems destructive, but it is necessary to remove impurities. In the same way, your sacrifices feel like burning, yet what remains will be pure and radiant. God is not trying to destroy you. He is revealing what cannot be broken. Your surrender also disarms the enemy. Darkness thrives when we cling to self. But every time you lay something down before God, it is like taking a weapon out of the enemy's hand. What he thought would control you becomes powerless. What he hoped would chain you becomes your victory testimony. Some may ask, why does God require so much? The answer is simple. Surrender makes space. When your hands are full of what you refuse to let go, there is no room for what God longs to give you. But when you release control, your hands open wide to receive treasures you never imagined. Consider the example of Abraham, called to surrender Isaac. It was the ultimate test of trust. Yet in that act of surrender, God revealed himself as provider. In the same way, each time you surrender, you are not losing. You are unlocking a revelation of who God truly is. So when you wrote, I choose surrender, you declared something mighty. You declared that you would rather carry an invisible crown than a temporary comfort. You declared that your life is not your own, that you trust the unseen promise more than the visible reward. This is the essence of discipleship. Hold this truth close. Surrender does not diminish you. It multiplies you. Every time you bow lower, heaven lifts you higher. Every time you lay down your will, God plants within you a greater portion of His. Your sacrifices are not forgotten. They are the foundation of your eternal inheritance. Chosen one. What you did today was not only noticed, it was recorded. The unseen realm is not vague poetry. It is a reality more precise than anything on earth. Every detail matters. Every act of obedience. Every word spoken in alignment with God's heart is written down. Angels bear witness, and eternal books are filled. Imagine for a moment a great library stretching beyond sight. Each soul has a volume, pages still turning, ink still vet. Your choices, your prayers, your sacrifices, each one becomes a line written in that eternal record. This is not metaphor only. Scripture points to the books opened before the throne, where deeds are remembered, where testimonies stand forever. You must realize, today, a page was added to your story. In the vision of Daniel, books were opened before the Ancient of Days. In the revelation of John, the book of life is mentioned, with names written before the foundation of the world. These are not dusty scrolls, but living records. When you forgave, when you resisted temptation, when you sowed kindness, it was captured, inscribed, preserved in eternity. Nothing was lost. There was once a chosen one who thought his efforts vanished into silence. He gave generously. He prayed when weary. He served when overlooked. At times, despair whispered, "What is the point?" Yet years later, he came to see that none of it had disappeared. The fruit came back to him, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Heaven had been keeping score long before he saw any reward. So it is with you. Your record is building, even now. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Hebrews, chapter 6, verse 10, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. This is a promise stronger than steel. If heaven remembers, nothing is wasted. Think of it this way. Your obedience is like a drop of wax melted onto parchment. It seals the record, permanent and untouchable. Even if you forget the details, heaven does not. Even if no one else recalls, the books bear witness. On the day when rewards are given, these hidden obediences will stand forth as evidence of your faith. This is why angels rejoice. They are not merely spectators, but recorders. They inscribe, they testify, they mark the lines of your life that align with God's will. You may have felt unseen when you prayed in your room alone, but, in truth, your chamber was crowded with witnesses, holy scribes etching every word. And there is a mystery here. The more hidden your obedience, the brighter it shines in eternity. The actions men overlook are the very ones heaven exalts. Jesus himself said, "What is done in secret will be rewarded openly." That is the divine paradox. What seems least here becomes greatest there. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a courtroom where records are read aloud. Each act of faith appears not as dry ink, but as living flame. The moments you thought forgotten will blaze like torches. Every choice to honor God, every whispered prayer, every act of mercy, they will be presented before the multitudes as testimony of who you were. Your life is not vanishing. It is accumulating glory. So, chosen one, hold this truth. When you rise in the morning and choose faith over despair, a line is written. When you resist the temptation to compromise, a page is sealed. When you love someone undeserving, another chapter unfolds. You are not wandering blindly. You are authoring a story that heaven itself will one day read aloud. And this is why today mattered so deeply. Not because it seemed grand in the eyes of men, but because it was eternal in the eyes of God. What you did is forever written, never erased, never overlooked. When you stand before him, it will not be a surprise, it will be recognition. Chosen one. Your record grows. The books are open. And today, another page turned with joy. Your story is not fragile ink that time can erase. It is carved into eternity with strokes of light. Every hidden yes, every key at surrender, every choice to walk in faith rather than fear has been written into the archives of heaven. One day, you will see those pages glow before you. So walk forward with confidence. The record is already being built. What feels invisible now will one day shine like a crown. You are not forgotten. Chosen one. You are remembered in the only place that truly matters, in the eternal books of God. Chosen one. You may not have seen it, but what you did today sent ripples into places you cannot imagine. Your light terrified darkness. Your decision quiet, small. Even hidden became like a lamp switched on in a room full of shadows. Darkness scattered, and heaven rejoiced. Let me tell you why. Every time you choose to walk in the ways of God, it is as if you stand at the edge of a battlefield with nothing but a torch in your hand. The enemy thinks the torch is insignificant, but when you lift it high, suddenly whole armies of darkness lose their footing. Your flame confuses their plans. They tremble at the sight of your faith. There was once a chosen one who lived through long nights of loneliness. In silence, they whispered prayers, thinking nothing shifted. Yet later they discovered that those small prayers had become walls of fire around their family, invisible to the eye, but powerful in the spirit. That is exactly what you have been doing. Every prayer you whispered, every choice you made, built barriers against forces you didn't even see. The prophet declared in the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 7, "The Lord is good, a refuge in times of trouble. He cares for those who trust in him." This is what your obedience unlocks. God himself becomes your refuge, your hiding place, your shield. Now, I must share this with you plainly. Messages like these are not entertainment. They are lifelines. And just as you carry your torch into battle, I too hold mine by speaking truth into your spirit. If this word has poured light into your darkness, then let me gently ask you to help carry the flame further. Think of it like this. A single candle lights up a room, but when another candle is lit from it, the glow doubles. Imagine if every chosen one who receives light here adds oil to keep the flame burning brighter for the next soul. That oil can be as simple as your like, your share, your subscription. These spread the light wider than you realize. And yes, some of you may even feel stirred to go further, to pour out oil in the form of a donation, not as a burden, not as a demand, but as a free gift. Like placing wood on a fire so it will not die out. Let me show you an even deeper picture. Imagine a river flowing through dry land. Each small drop you add, whether by liking, by sharing, by subscribing, or by giving, is like releasing another stream into that river. And suddenly, the desert begins to bloom. You may never see the flowers, but they will grow because you helped the waters flow. Understand this. You are never required to give. You are never pressured. The kingdom of God does not operate in coercion, but in freedom. A donation is not a condition. It is simply one more way of saying, I believe this flame must continue. Think again of the lighthouse on the coast. The light does not exist for itself. It stands tall for the sake of the ships tossed in the storm. Supporting this work is like polishing the glass of that lighthouse or keeping its fire supplied with oil. You may never meet the sailors who find safety, but your hands keep the beacon burning. And if you choose not to give, know this, your presence still matters. Your listening, your sharing, your prayer, your subscription. These too are ways of saying, I will not let the flame go out. Heaven delights in every form of support, because all of it extends the reach of light into the shadows. But if your heart feels stirred, if you know God is whispering, place wood on this fire, then give as an act of joy, not duty. Let it be like water poured freely onto thirsty ground, because when you release what you carry, you participate in a greater story. So, chosen one, keep lifting your torch, keep shining, keep disrupting darkness with the simplest choices of obedience. And if you feel led to place oil on this flame through your support, whether by sharing, subscribing, liking, or even donating, do it as a free and joyful act, not for me, but for the countless lives still walking in night who need to see this light. God sees, heaven records, and the fire will not be put out. And remember, chosen one, every act of faith you release, whether a whisper of prayer, a step of courage, or a seed of generosity, becomes eternal light. The flame you carry will guide others home long after this moment passes. Chosen one, listen carefully. There is a rhythm to obedience. Heaven has seen the steps you have taken, and now the Spirit whispers. Repeat the pattern. Multiply the blessing. It is not a single act that builds the harvest, but the steady, repeated sowing of your life into God's will. Think of rain falling on a field. One drop may touch the soil, but it cannot bring the crop to life. Yet when the drops return day after day, the ground becomes saturated, and the seed bursts forth. Your obedience is that rain. One act matters, but when you continue, when you choose again and again, heaven prepares an overflow that cannot be contained. There was a chosen one who struggled to stay consistent. She prayed when she felt strong, gave when she had abundance, obeyed when the atmosphere was light. But in the seasons of dryness, she faltered. Then came a revelation. God is not only found in the bursts of passion, but in the steady walk of faith. So she decided, even when I feel nothing, I will still obey. Over time, her faithfulness became like roots digging deep into the earth. And when the storm came, her life stood unmoved, because her consistency had built strength unseen. This is the invitation for you. Chosen one, not a one-time spark, but a steady flame. God's heart rejoices when you repeat the good you did today, not because He demands routine, but because every repetition adds weight to your destiny. The prophet Haggai wrote, chapter 2, verse 9, "The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house, declares the Lord Almighty, and in this place I will grant peace. What you began today will not end small. The latter harvest will always outshine the first." Consistency is not glamorous. It rarely wins applause. It often feels unnoticed. But heaven builds empires on repeated obediences. You pray one day, it echoes. You pray again the next, it deepens. You resist temptation once, it shakes the enemy. You resist again, it crushes his hold. Each time you obey, you are laying another brick in the foundation of a fortress that will guard generations after you. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. One strike of the hammer bends the metal slightly, but it is not enough. Yet after strike upon strike, the blade is shaped, refined, perfected. Your life is being forged in the same way. Today's obedience was one strike. Tomorrow's will be another. And soon, the weapon in God's hand will gleam, sharp and unbreakable. Chosen one, I know repetition can feel weary. You may think, didn't I already give? Didn't I already forgive? Didn't I already pray this prayer? Yes, you did. And yes, you must again, because obedience is not a single note. It is a melody that grows more powerful with each chord. Heaven is weaving your repeated choices into a song that will never fade. Do not despise the pattern. Farmers water again and again. Musicians rehearse again and again. Builders lay brick after brick. Each repetition is progress. So it is in your walk with God. When you keep doing what pleases Him, the blessing multiplies. This is why today's act cannot end as a single spark. God's heart longs to see it repeated, multiplied, carried forward into tomorrow, into next week, into the years to come. Your consistency will become a river, flowing wider and deeper until whole valleys drink from it. Now pause. Chosen one. I want you to mark this in your heart with a sign. Comment the number 212 below. Why 212? Because it speaks of alignment, a rhythm, a steady path that doubles and multiplies itself. By writing it, you are saying, I will continue. I will repeat what is good. I will multiply the blessing. This is not superstition. It is a prophetic reminder of the pattern you are choosing to walk in. Remember, the enemy fears consistency more than he fears passion. He can wait out a burst of fire, but he cannot withstand a steady flame that never dies. Your daily, yes, repeated and multiplied, is the hammer blow that breaks his chains. So walk forward with determination. What you began today is not finished. Repeat it tomorrow. Multiply it in the days ahead. Watch as the blessing grows greater than the seed, the harvest richer than the effort, the glory brighter than the beginning. Your obedience, repeated, will shake the unseen. Your consistency will move mountains, and your steady yes will write a legacy that no darkness can erase. Chosen one. Have you noticed how resistance seems to rise the moment you take a step forward? The moment you choose faith, the whispers of doubt grow louder. The moment you choose light, shadows stretch longer. This is not coincidence, it is evidence. The enemy reacts when he sees you rising. Think of an eagle soaring higher into the sky. The winds grow stronger as it climbs, not weaker. But the eagle does not resist the wind. It spreads its wings and lets the current lift it higher. In the same way, when resistance comes against you, it is not proof of failure. It is proof that you are ascending. There was a chosen one who longed for peace. Every time she pressed into prayer, distractions multiplied. Every time she sought to give generously, unexpected expenses appeared. Every time she spoke truth, opposition rose from people she trusted. For a season, she believed this meant she was doing something wrong. But then the Spirit revealed, the very fact that pressure was increasing was the sign that she was moving into new territory. Opposition was proof of advancement. The Apostle Paul understood this deeply. In his second letter to the Corinthians, he spoke of a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan sent to torment him. Precisely because of the abundance of revelations he carried, resistance came not because he was weak, but because he was carrying something weighty. So too with you. Chosen one, the enemy would not waste his time resisting you if your life were powerless. The resistance itself is evidence that heaven has entrusted you with something valuable. Think of it another way. A thief does not break into an empty house. He seeks the one filled with treasure. If you are experiencing unusual pressure, it is because you are carrying treasure unseen. The enemy has recognized it, even if you have not yet, and he aims to shake you off course. The prophet Elijah once stood on Mount Carmel in a showdown with the prophets of Baal. Fire from heaven fell. But immediately after, Jezebel threatened his life. Elijah fled, overwhelmed, as if his great victory meant nothing. But what he did not realize was that opposition intensified because his breakthrough had shifted the atmosphere of an entire nation. In the same way, your resistance is not random. It is the backlash of darkness against the light you released. Do not be dismayed. Resistance does not mean God is absent. It often means he is nearer than ever. Like gold refined in the furnace, your faith is being purified. What emerges will not be fragile but unshakable. Imagine a tree planted by streams of water. Storms may bend its branches. Winds may howl through its leaves. But its roots grow deeper with every storm. So too, your roots of faith are digging deeper each time opposition rises. What seems like shaking is actually strengthening. And here is a mystery. Sometimes resistance is heaven's own way of training you. Soldiers are not prepared for battle with pillows, but with weights, with drills, with hardship. The opposition you feel now may be heaven's instrument to forge you into a warrior fit for greater assignments. It is not cruelty, it is preparation. Chosen one. Let me remind you of the words found in the letter to the Romans. Chapter 5, verse 3-4. We glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character. Hope. You are not being crushed, you are being shaped. Every moment of resistance is producing in you a weight of glory that cannot be taken away. So when the winds rise, spread your wings. When the enemy presses, dye your roots deeper. When doubts come, lift your eyes higher. The very forces that try to stop you will become the currents that carry you. What you face now is not a sign of weakness, but of worth. If the enemy fights you, it is because he fears what you carry. If resistance surrounds you, it is because heaven is raising you higher. Do not turn back. Do not shrink down. Stand firm. The storm is proof of your rising. Chosen one. The storm that circles you now is not your end, but your confirmation. Every gust of wind, every voice of doubt, every unexpected weight is the evidence that you are on holy ground. Stepping into territory meant for you. Lift your head. Let resistance become your training ground, not your prison. What was meant to break, you will become the very pressure that reveals your strength. You are rising, even now, and no force of darkness can hold you down. Chosen one. You may not feel it yet, but you are carrying more than you know. Your obedience is never isolated to yourself alone. Every decision to honor God extends its impact like rings in water, touching people, families, even generations beyond your own. The blessing on your life is a current moving through time. Think of an ancient tree in the middle of a field. Its branches stretch wide, giving shade to travelers who never planted it. Its roots drink deep from unseen waters, holding the soil together so that others can walk safely. That tree began as a seed planted long ago by hands now forgotten. Your faithfulness today is that seed. Generations after you may sit in the shade of the tree that grows from your obedience. There was once a chosen one who felt his choices did not matter. He struggled, fell, and rose again. He did not know that his simple prayers for his children would one day protect his grandchildren. Years later, when storms of temptation surrounded his family, doors opened that should have remained shut, and opportunities arrived at the exact moment of need. The family thought it was coincidence, but in heaven's record, it was traced back to one man's repeated prayers years before. What you do today carries the same hidden legacy. The voice of God thundered in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 9. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. You may feel small, but your obedience weaves into a covenant that stretches beyond the span of your lifetime. Imagine throwing a stone into a river. The water splashes, ripples outward, and though the circles fade from sight, the current carries the disturbance far downstream. You may not see how your act of obedience flows into tomorrow, but the current continues. Someone far removed from you will encounter God's mercy because of the current you set in motion. This is why the weight you carry feels so heavy at times. You are not only fighting for yourself, you are standing for your bloodline. You are resisting chains that tried to bind those before you and would gladly claim those after you. When you choose God in the moment of temptation, you are not just winning your own battle, you are breaking patterns that generations could not escape. There was another chosen one, a woman who endured years of poverty and hardship. She clung to faith when despair whispered to let go. In her last years, she did not see the fullness of the promises she had believed for. Yet decades later, her descendants walked into blessings she had only prayed about. Houses they did not build, vineyards they did not plant, opportunities she had only dreamed of, all were theirs, because she had carried the weight faithfully in her season. This is the mystery of obedience. You may not always see its fruit, but it never dies. Seeds buried in the ground still sprout when the season comes. Your hidden choices, your sacrifices, your prayers whispered in secret, they are seeds. Even if your eyes never behold their full bloom, your descendants will one day gather the harvest. Chosen one, your shoulders may feel weak under this responsibility. Yet remember this, you were chosen not because of your strength, but because of God's faithfulness. He upholds what you cannot. He multiplies what you offer. He carries what would otherwise break you. The very weight you carry is proof of your calling. Picture yourself as a bridge spanning a river. You feel the weight of many footsteps across your back, family, friends, generations, yet unborn. You may think, I cannot hold them. But what holds you is not your own strength. It is the solid foundation of Christ beneath. As long as you are anchored in him, the bridge will not collapse. Instead, it will carry multitudes safely to the other side. So, do not dismiss your choices as small. Each act of obedience expands the shade of the tree, strengthens the current of the river, reinforces the bridge across generations. You are carrying more than you know, and heaven is strengthening you to endure. Chosen one, what you did today is already moving through time, shaping stories you will never fully know. You are building a legacy, not of fleeting words, but of eternal weight. And when you feel unseen, remember this truth: the impact of your obedience outlives your breath. What you build today in secret will one day rise as a testimony in the lives of those yet to come. Chosen one. Every step you take in faith echoes beyond your own life. You have already felt how your choices ripple into unseen places, how heaven writes down your obedience. But now hear this. Those steps are not only recorded, they are shaping your destiny in real time. Think of a drumbeat echoing in a canyon. One strike may seem small, but the sound repeats, bounces, multiplies, and fills the space. Your act of faith today is like that beat. Its echo continues even when you move on. The unseen world does not forget. There was a chosen one who decided one morning to pray not for herself, but for a stranger she had never met. She did not hear an answer. I saw no immediate fruit. Yet weeks later, that very stranger survived a crisis, strengthened without even knowing who had interceded. What looked like a small step was an echo in eternity. That is what your faith is doing each day. According to the writings of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God will be with you. Every step you take forward, even trembling, is accompanied by His presence. You are never walking alone. Your obedience becomes like footprints on a trail through a dark forest. Others, coming after you, see the marks and know which way to walk. Your courage lights the path for the weary. Your prayer clears the air for the suffocating. Your faith becomes a map. Chosen one. Understand this clearly. What you are doing is not only for survival. You are pioneering. You are breaking through so that others can follow. Your steps echo like signals to those hidden in the valley, whispering, "This way is safe. Walk here." So pause now. Seal this truth with your own declaration. Comment these 3 words, I walk forward. Write it not as ritual, but as faith. By doing so, you are aligning with heaven's record, affirming that you will not step back. You will not remain still. You will move in the direction of God's calling. And every time you walk forward, whether in prayer, in forgiveness, in courage, you are leaving echoes that will guide others long after your voice is gone. Your forward steps are not wasted. Each one digs into the soil of destiny, marking a path that heaven intends to use for others. Even if you feel like you are moving slowly, the fact that you are moving at all is breaking ground. Think about a traveler walking through snow. The first one struggles the most, sinking with every step, fighting the weight. But those who follow find it easier, because the trail has already been carved. That is your role, now making a way where there was no way. When you wrote, I walk forward, you weren't just typing words, you were announcing a posture of faith. That short phrase carries the weight of defiance against fear, against doubt, against the paralysis of the past. It is a declaration that you belong to movement, not stagnation. Do you realize how powerful this is? Every time you walk forward, you deny the enemy the satisfaction of your retreat. You refuse to live chained to what tried to hold you. You silence the voices that told you to quit. Even one step is rebellion against darkness. Your forward movement is also an invitation to God. He meets you on the road, not behind closed doors of fear. The moment you step out, His presence surrounds you. His strength fills you. His promises light the path. Forward is the direction of His covenant. Picture a ship leaving the harbor. The ropes fall. The sails rise. And even though the open sea looks uncertain, the ship was not built to sit tied to the dock. Neither were you. You were created to move, to carry the wind of His Spirit, to explore waters. No one in your family line has crossed. And yes, forward steps sometimes feel shaky. Sometimes you stumble, but even stumbles move you ahead. Falling while walking forward is still progress, because it means you are no longer standing still. The mercy of God lifts you to continue. So keep reminding yourself, I walk forward, not only for you, but for every life that will one day step in your footprints. Your journey is a map. Your movement is a testimony. And your obedience is a signal fire guiding those who come behind. Your step today is a prophecy of tomorrow's breakthrough. Even if unseen, it speaks loudly in heaven's courts. Walk forward. Chosen one. Each movement breaks chains. Each footprint tells a story. And each decision writes hope for those who will follow you. Chosen one. I want you to see what truly happened when you obeyed today. It was not only that God noticed, it was that heaven smiled. Your decision, so small in your own eyes, rose before His throne like a fragrance, and it brought delight to His heart. Picture a parent watching their child take their very first step. The step may be clumsy. The child may wobble. Yet the joy of the parent is uncontainable. That is how God looked upon you today. Not with judgment, not with criticism, but with overflowing delight. Your simple yes made heaven rejoice. Sometimes you imagine that God only celebrates the great victories, the miraculous healings, the grand breakthroughs, the sweeping revivals. But His heart also leaps with joy at the whisper of obedience, the hidden act of kindness, the prayer no one else hears. To Him, the size of the act matters less than the posture of the heart. There was a chosen one who worked quietly in a marketplace, serving others without recognition. One day, he gave away his lunch to a hungry child. He thought little of it. Yet years later, that same child became a leader who carried hope into his community. God smiled at the man's small choice that day, because He already saw the ripple it would create. This is how heaven viewed you today. The Apostle Paul writes in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58, Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord. For your labor is not in vain. Nothing you have done in Him is wasted. Nothing. Now, I must speak gently but clearly. Words like these do not come from empty air. They are a flame meant to light hearts in darkness. And like every flame, it needs oil to keep burning. If this word has touched you, consider helping the fire continue. Think of it this way: when you press like, it is as if you are adding another stick to the fire. When you share, it is as though you are carrying a torch into another room so someone else can find their way. When you subscribe, you are building a lantern that keeps shining night after night. And when you choose to donate, it is like pouring oil into the lamp, ensuring that the flame will not go out for those still wandering in shadows. But hear me well, this is not a demand, not a burden, not an obligation. It is a choice of beauty, a chance to participate in the spreading of light. A lighthouse does not stand for itself. It stands for the ships tossed in the storm. Your support, whether through liking, Sharing, subscribing, or donating is like keeping the glass of that lighthouse polished, its fire supplied. You may never meet the sailors it saves, but heaven will show you the lives touched by your act. Imagine a field of candles in the night. One flame burns, but soon another joins, and another. Soon the darkness cannot compete. That is what happens when you support this message. It multiplies the glow until the shadows retreat. And for those stirred to give financially, let it be out of joy, never pressure. See it as planting a seed in fertile soil. You may not watch the sprout rise immediately, but one day the tree will stand tall, and under its branches someone will find rest because of your seed, even if you choose not to give. Know this: your presence here matters. Your listening, your prayers, your attention are also oil. God smiles on every form of support, because every single one expands the reach of His light. Now, let me leave you with a fresh vision. Think of your support this way. It is like placing a stone into the foundation of a bridge. When you press like, you lay a stone of recognition. When you share, you extend the bridge further so others may cross. When you subscribe, you strengthen the pillars so the bridge endures through storms. And when you donate, you pour gold into the joints, ensuring the bridge will never collapse under the weight of those who will walk after you. This bridge is not for you alone. It is for countless souls still searching for a way across their valley of despair. Each act you make, whether small or great, becomes part of that eternal structure. And one day, heaven will show you the faces of those who made it safely across because of your choice. So, chosen one, never underestimate the smile of God over your obedience. He rejoices in what you began today. And if your heart feels stirred to help the flame continue, whether by liking, sharing, subscribing, or donating, let it be your free and beautiful offering, not for me, but for the countless souls still waiting for light in their night. God saw, heaven smiled, and the fire will keep burning. Chosen one, what you did today was not a random act, it was training. Heaven often prepares warriors not with grand assignments first, but with the hidden disciplines that no one applauds. You may have thought your decision was small, but in truth, it was a rehearsal for something greater that God is about to entrust to you. Think of a shepherd in the hills, watching over sheep. To most, it looks like a quiet, insignificant task. Yet that same shepherd learns courage when lions and bears come near. Those moments in the wilderness are what prepare him for the day he will face Goliath. So it is with you. Your wilderness moments, your hidden obediences are training ground for victories ahead. There was once a chosen one who worked in obscurity, feeling unseen and overlooked. He obeyed God faithfully in his private life, with no stage, nor audience. Yet years later, when opportunity came suddenly, he was ready. His years of unseen practice had shaped him into someone trustworthy. What others thought was wasted time was actually preparation. The letter to the Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 11 declares, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful later on. However, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." What feels difficult now is not punishment, it is training. What feels heavy now is building strength for assignments still ahead. Imagine an archer drawing back the string of a bow. To the untrained eye, it looks like retreat, pulling the arrow further back, delaying its release. But in truth, the farther it is drawn, the farther it will fly. Your season of hidden obedience is that pullback. Heaven is preparing to launch you farther than you thought possible. Your choices today may feel unnoticed, but they are shaping endurance. Each act of forgiveness is teaching you patience. Each whispered prayer is sharpening your spirit. Each moment of resistance against temptation is forging your will. These are not wasted. They are the invisible weights that will make you strong enough to carry the visible assignment when it comes. Choose one. Do not despise the training. Soldiers are not equipped by comfort, but by hardship. Musicians do not master instruments by playing easy songs, but by enduring repetition until skill is born. In the same way, your faith is being exercised, and like muscles under strain, it may ache now, but it will grow strong enough to hold what God is preparing. There is a story of a woman who spent years waiting for her calling to unfold. In that waiting, she chose obedience in small matters, loving her neighbors, serving her family, praying faithfully. At the time, she wondered if she had missed her purpose. But one day, God lifted her into a position of influence. She discovered that the strength and wisdom she needed had been formed in those hidden years. Without the discipline, she would not have been ready. This is the secret of God's training. It never wastes pain. It never wastes effort. It never wastes waiting. Every choice you make in faith is building capacity for what is to come. While others may see nothing, heaven sees foundation. Picture a stonemason carving block after block, stacking them quietly. The wall looks ordinary at first, but when the storm comes, the hidden strength of each stone is revealed. Your life is like that wall. Each act of obedience, a stone set into place. Soon, when the winds rise, the fortress will stand, and others will find refuge in the strength you built in silence. Chosen one. Take courage. God has seen your faithfulness in little, and He will entrust you with much. Your preparation is not in vain. The greater assignment will come, and when it does, you will realize that every small act, every unseen choice, every silent yes was shaping you to be ready. So do not faint in the training. Lift your head, embrace the weight, for it is building strength. And remember, your Father delights in shaping you. He has entrusted you with today's obedience only because He is preparing you for tomorrow's crown. Chosen one. The training you endure is not punishment, it is investment. Every test, every hidden battle, every unseen surrender is adding weight to your spirit. Heaven would not allow the pressure unless it knew you were being shaped for something greater. So take heart. One day soon, you will look back and see the design in all of it. The long nights, the silent prayers, the daily choices, they were not wasted. They were tools in the hand of God, carving you into a vessel of honor. Chosen one. The decision you made today may seem like a small seed, but heaven has marked it for multiplication. When you repeat obedience, it is never in vain. God smiles, not only at the moment itself, but at the resolve that says, "I will continue." End quote. Think of the sunrise. One morning it rises, painting the sky with colors, and then the next day it comes again, steady and sure. If the sun rose only once, the world would fall into darkness. Its daily return is what brings life. Your obedience works the same way. A single act matters, but when it becomes a rhythm, the atmosphere around you begins to change. There was once a chosen one who decided to pray daily for her family. Even when she saw no change, days became months. Months became years. At times, she felt her words were lost in the wind. Yet one day, suddenly, her son came to faith. Her daughter found peace. Her home was filled with restoration. The miracle did not come from one prayer alone. It was the steady stream, drop after drop, that carved a river through the hardest stone. Scripture reminds us in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Heaven's timeline is different from yours, but its promise is sure. What you continue to sow will surely bring fruit. Picture rain dripping on a mountain rock. The first drop does not carve a path, but repeated drops, faithful and steady, cut through stone over time. Your choices today are like those drops. One act may feel weak, but when repeated, it shapes history. This is why consistency is so vital. The enemy does not only fear your passion, he fears your persistence. He knows he can often outlast a burst of emotion, but he cannot withstand the steady flame of endurance. That is why your repeated obedience is so dangerous to him. It proves that your faith is not shallow, but rooted. Chosen one. Consider the story of Daniel. He prayed 3 times a day, every day, even when the decree threatened his life. One prayer may have seemed insignificant, but his repeated devotion shook kingdoms. The lion's den did not silence him because his consistency had already sealed his destiny. You are walking that same path. Now, pause and seal this moment. Comment the number 565 below. Why 565? Because it is like the heartbeat rise. Fall. Rise again. It declares rhythm, continuation, and perseverance. By writing it, you are prophetically declaring, "I will not quit. I will continue in what pleases God until the harvest comes." Your obedience is not a one-time event. It is a pattern, and each time you repeat it, you add another stone to the altar, another note to the song, another flame to the fire. Heaven treasures it all. Imagine building a cathedral, brick by brick. Each brick seems small on its own, but together they form a structure that will stand for centuries. Your repeated choices are building a cathedral of faith, a dwelling place for God's glory in your life. So when you feel weary, remind yourself the seed is working underground. When you feel unseen, remember the pages are still being written. When you feel your steps are small, know this: heaven counts each one as part of the masterpiece. Chosen one. Do not stop. Continue in what you began. Comment 565 as a declaration of your resolve. And let that number remind you of the steady heartbeat of faith. One act at a time, one day at a time. You are weaving a story that will outlast you. Your declaration with 565 is not just a number, it is a reminder of rhythm. Just like the steady beating of a heart keeps life flowing, your steady acts of obedience keep the life of God flowing through you and those connected to you. The number becomes a symbol of endurance, of rising again. After every fall, think of waves on the shore. One wave alone cannot reshape the coastline, but the repetition of many waves over years carves out cliffs and builds new landscapes. In the same way, your repeated choices, though they may feel small now, are reshaping your story and even the story of generations after you. So hold fast. Do not despise repetition. Each step is forming a pattern, and each pattern is weaving a testimony. The persistence of your faith will one day stand as a monument to God's glory, seen by all who come after you. Chosen one. What you must understand now is this: every step you take, no matter how ordinary it seems, hechos into eternity, nothing done in faith disappears. The unseen realm holds it, magnifies it, and releases its fruit long after the moment has passed. Picture a single note played on a violin in a grand cathedral. The sound may fade quickly to your ears, but in the vaulted ceilings, the vibration lingers, bouncing, blending, filling the space. Your act of faith is like that note. Though you think it ends when you move on, heaven carries its resonance further than you know. There was once a man who spent his life working in obscurity. He prayed for his village every dawn, though no revival ever came in his lifetime. After he died, others discovered journals filled with his prayers. Within a generation, that same village became a hub of spiritual awakening. His steps, though unseen, had echoed forward into time. Chosen one. This is the mystery of faith. Your life leaves a sound that reverberates long after your hands are folded. The Apostle Paul wrote in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Do you see? Even struggles endured in faith are not wasted. They are transformed into weight, into glory, into echoes that will never fade. Think of seeds again. When they fall into the ground, they vanish from sight. Yet each seed releases more than itself. It multiplies into fruit, which carries more seeds, which plant more trees. That is how eternity works. Your single step is not solitary. It reproduces. It multiplies itself across generations, across unseen boundaries, across eternity. Chosen one. Sometimes you feel invisible because you do not see the fruit immediately. But fruit is not always for the season of sowing. Sometimes the echo of your step is meant to feed those who come later. Faith requires trust that even when your eyes cannot see, heaven has already sealed the outcome. Let me give you another picture. Imagine a sculptor chiseling stone. Each strike looks small, each chip insignificant. But with time, the figure emerges, breathtaking in detail. Each strike mattered. Each sound of hammer on stone was an echo of the vision, yet unseen. Your life is like that stone. God's hand carves with patience, and your obedience is the echo of the chisel that will reveal his masterpiece. There was once a woman who endured betrayal. Rather than harden her heart, she chose forgiveness. To her, it felt like weakness, yet years later, her children grew up to become peacemakers, carrying a spirit of reconciliation wherever they went. Her single step of forgiveness echoed through their lives, shaping a generation of healing. The enemy would have you believe your steps are too small to matter. He whispers, "No one saw, no one cares, nothing changed." But the truth is different. Heaven not only saw but celebrated. The echo is already moving, already touching lives. already weaving itself into the eternal story God is writing with you. Imagine a comet streaking across the night sky. The light vanishes quickly to the human eye, yet its trail lingers, visible long after. That is your faith. What you do today may look like a fleeting act, but its trail continues, visible in heaven's sky long after you forget. Chosen one. Your every act of faith is a stone dropped into eternity's waters. The ripples will never fully stop. They will touch shores you will never walk on, lives you will never meet, generations you will never see. And on the day you stand before God, He will show you the echo, the fullness of what your obedience achieved. So walk with confidence. No step is wasted. No echo is lost. Every choice in faith reverberates forever. Chosen one. You are like a bell in the tower of time. Each swing may seem ordinary, but the sound carries farther than you know. Long after the rope is still, the vibration remains, calling others to awaken, to move, to believe. Do not underestimate what your life is striking into the atmosphere. Heaven hears the echo, and the earth feels the shift. Every prayer, every act of kindness, every refusal to compromise it rings like a bell, sending its sound into eternity. And when you grow weary, remember, echoes do not depend on your strength to continue. Once released, they travel on their own. So too, with your faith, what you release today will continue long after, shaping futures you cannot yet see. Chosen one. Hear this clearly. Hell lost ground today. What you thought was a small act of obedience was, in truth, a strike against the enemy's territory. You may not have seen the shaking with your natural eyes, but the unseen realm felt it. Darkness recoiled when you stood in the light. Think of a battlefield at night. Soldiers advance step by step, and with each step, the enemy's lines are pushed back. It may not look dramatic, but land is being reclaimed. That is what happened with your choice today. You reclaimed ground, territory once thought lost, space where God's light now reigns. There was a chosen one who carried bitterness for years. Each day, the enemy whispered, "Stay angry, stay wounded." But one day, she chose forgiveness. She thought it was only for her own peace. But heaven saw it as a victory banner planted in enemy soil. That single act caused generational chains of offense to shatter. Hell lost ground that day. The same has happened with you. Your act has opened a new territory for freedom. The prophet Isaiah records in chapter 54, verse 17, "No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord." When you obey, you enforce this promise. The weapons formed against you may strike, but they do not succeed. Your obedience becomes the shield that turns the enemy's attacks back on himself. Imagine a chessboard. Every move seems small. One piece forward, one piece to the side. But strategy builds, and soon a single move shifts the entire game. Your obedience is like that piece on the board. What seems minor actually shifts the whole battle. Hell underestimated you because it underestimated the power of a single yes to God. Chosen one. Do not be fooled into thinking resistance means defeat. In truth, Resistance often appears when the enemy senses he is losing ground. When Israel marched into the Promised Land, the battles intensified, not because God abandoned them, but because the enemy knew his time was short. The same is true for you. Your breakthrough is near. And that is why the opposition feels so fierce. There is a story of a young man who fasted quietly, seeking God for guidance. No angel appeared. No miracle occurred. But weeks later, the door opened for him to step into a calling greater than he imagined. What had really happened? His fasting weakened strongholds over his family line, breaking invisible walls that had stood for generations. His obedience dismantled what hell had constructed. Your life carries that same weight. Your decisions disarm fortresses you do not even see. Picture a storm raging on the sea. Waves crash. Winds howl. But beneath the surface, the currents shift silently, permanently. What you do in faith today is that unseen current. Hell may scream on the surface, but deep below, the tide has already turned against it. Chosen one, realize this: you are not fighting for victory. You are fighting from victory. Christ has already triumphed. Your obedience is the enforcement of that triumph. Every time you say yes to him, you raise the banner of his victory higher, and the enemy is forced to retreat another step. Sometimes the retreat is invisible. Sometimes it feels as though nothing has moved. But just as walls of Jericho fell after 7 days of walking, the enemy's defenses crumble under repeated strikes of faith. Today was one of those strikes. Hell's wall is cracking, even if you do not yet hear the sound. So stand firm. What you did today mattered. It shifted the balance. It planted a flag where the enemy once ruled. It marked a piece of ground as belonging to the kingdom hell lost, and heaven rejoiced. Chosen one. Remember this truth whenever doubt comes. Your obedience is a weapon. Your surrender is a victory. And your faith is the banner that declares, the enemy has no hold. Today, you advanced. Today, the enemy retreated. And today, heaven celebrated the ground you reclaimed. Chosen one. The ground you reclaim today is not temporary. What God gives, he secures. The enemy may circle, but he cannot take back what was surrendered to Christ. The soil under your feet now carries heaven's mark, holy, unshakable, forever redeemed. So, walk with courage. When you feel pressed, remember, you are walking on land already won. Every step is an announcement that hell cannot recover what it has lost. Your obedience sealed the victory, and your future will unfold on ground soaked in triumph. Chosen one, you have walked through valleys, you have faced storms, and you have risen again when the enemy thought you were finished. What you carry is not ordinary. It is a torch that lights the way for others. And with every step, heaven affirms you. You are chosen. You are marked. You are crowned for this moment. Today's message is not just a reminder, it is a living witness. When you chose obedience, when you chose surrender, when you chose faith over fear, heaven smiled. And the truth is this: your journey is never meant to be walked alone. Each flame joins another, and together they become a wildfire that cannot be contained. The Apostle writes in the book of Philippians, chapter 2, verse 16, "Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky, as you hold firmly to the word of life. Do you see it? Chosen one, you are already a star blazing against the backdrop of night. But stars do not shine for themselves. They shine so travelers can find their way. Now let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you are standing in a vast desert at night. The stars above guide your path, but the desert is wide and lonely. Then suddenly, a campfire glows in the distance. You walk toward it, warmed not just by its flame, but by the community it creates. That is what happens here. Every like, every share, every comment, every subscribe, every donation is another spark added to the fire, so that weary travelers may find their way to warmth. But hear me clearly, this is not obligation. This is invitation. A campfire does not force you to join it, welcomes you. You may sit in silence, or you may add a log to the flame. Either way, the fire still burns. Yet when you place your own piece of wood, the glow spreads farther, the warmth grows deeper, and the night is pushed back. There was once a chosen one who felt invisible. She listened quietly, drawing strength from messages like this, but never thought her presence mattered. Then one day, she decided to speak just a simple comment of faith. That small act became a testimony to another reader who was on the edge of giving up, without even knowing it. Her spark lit someone else's torch. This is the mystery of community. Your voice may be the light another soul is waiting for. Think of it like a stained glass window in a cathedral. Each piece of glass is beautiful on its own, but when placed together, they form a breathtaking picture illuminated by the sun. When you like, when you share, when you comment, when you subscribe, when you give, you are placing your piece into the window. Alone, it is lovely. Together, it is glorious. And for those stirred to support financially, understand this: giving is not losing. It is sowing. It is not obligation. It is artistry. Like a painter adding color to a canvas, your offering becomes part of the masterpiece. You may never see the full picture now, but heaven sees it complete, and one day you will too. Imagine a river flowing through dry land. Each act of generosity is another stream joining the current, swelling its force, carrying life to barren places. Those who drink may never know your name, but they will taste water made possible by your stream. That is the beauty of it. It is not about recognition. It is about life flowing. And if you choose not to give, then remain by the fire. Remain by the river. Remain under the stained glass glow. Your presence still matters. Your prayers, your listening, your quiet agreement, these, too, are offerings. But if your heart is stirred, then let your giving be like planting a seed in spring, done with joy and expectation, trusting that the harvest will be greater than the handful you released. So, chosen one, let us keep building together. Let us keep tending this fire. Let us keep placing glass into the window, streams into the river, logs onto the campfire, and if your spirit feels the nudge, let your support, whether by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, or donating, be your beautiful choice. Not demanded, not forced, but offered freely, like perfume poured out at the feet of Christ. God sees, heaven records, and the light we tend together will shine long after this moment has passed. Chosen one, remember this: The beauty of your support is not in its size, but in its sincerity. Every spark, every voice, every act, whether small or great, adds to the flame of God's work. Heaven delights in the harmony of many hearts moving as one. And long after this moment passes, your part will remain. The fire will still burn. The river will still flow. And the light will still shine because you chose to give yourself freely. Chosen one, lift your eyes for a moment and consider the crown that awaits you. It is not fashioned by human hands, nor bought with gold or silver. It is woven from your obedience, from your endurance, from every act of faith that has been written into heaven's record. Ach moment you resisted darkness. Each step you took in the light. Each word spoken in truth. They are jewels set into the crown reserved for you. The Apostle Paul wrote near the end of his life in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 2, verse 5, anyone who competes as an athlete does not receive the crown, except by competing according to the rules. This is not just his testimony, it is yours too. Picture a marathon runner nearing the finish line. Muskeln zasch, lungs burn. Yet the roar of the crowd grows louder. The prize is not just for running, but for enduring to the end. Your life mirrors that runner. Every struggle you have faced has been shaping you, carrying you closer to the moment when the righteous judge himself will place a crown on your head. There was once a chosen one who endured decades of obscurity, living faithfully, though no spotlight shone on her. When she entered her final days, she thought she had accomplished little. Yet in the spirit, heaven revealed a crown prepared for her, shining brighter than she imagined. Her quiet endurance, her silent sacrifices, had built something eternal. So too, with you, your story is being adorned with jewels of obedience you do not even recognize yet. Imagine a craftsman in an ancient workshop, piece by piece. He sets gems into a circlet of gold. Each jewel catches the light differently: ruby, sapphire, emerald, diamond. He works patiently, intentionally, with care. This is what heaven is doing with your life. Every time you obey, another jewel is added. Every time you love when it costs you something, another stone is placed. And when the crown is finished, it will bear the radiance of your journey. Chosen one, sometimes you feel weary, wondering if the fight is worth it. The world may not applaud you, and people may even misunderstand you. But the crown is real. It does not tarnish like earthly rewards. It cannot be stolen, cannot be corrupted, cannot fade. Your faith is weaving something imperishable. Think of the ancient Olympic Games. Victors were crowned with laurel wreaths that withered within days. Yet they ran, they fought, they endured, all for something temporary. How much more should you endure, knowing your crown will never wither? This is why the trials are worth it. What you carry now is temporary pain. What you will receive is eternal glory. There was a man who worked in the shadows of history. His name was not known. His deeds were not recorded in books, but his prayers sustained others who bore visible fruit. When he entered eternity, the crown he received astonished him, for it reflected not his fame, but his faithfulness. Chosen one. This truth belongs to you as well. Your hidden faith is not hidden from God. Picture the moment. You stand before the throne. The King rises, eyes blazing with love. and in his hands is the crown designed for you. As he places it upon your head, the weight you feel is not heavy, it is joy, honor, completion. Every tear you shed, every step you took, every battle you endured is redeemed in that instant. So press on. Lift your eyes beyond the weariness of today. The crown is waiting. The righteous judge has already prepared it. And when that day comes, you will not regret a single act of faith, a single sacrifice, a single yes to God. For all of it is being gathered into glory that no darkness can ever touch. Chosen one, your crown is not only a symbol of reward, it is a testimony of endurance. Every scar you carry will shine as a jewel. Every unseen sacrifice will glimmer as gold. What looked like loss on earth will gleam as glory in eternity. Think of a mountain climber who reaches the summit after years of climbing. The view is breathtaking not only because of the height, but because of the struggle endured to reach it. So it will be when you stand before God. Your crown will speak of every steep path you conquered. And in that moment, you will finally understand nothing was wasted. Not the nights of tears, not the prayers whispered in silence, not the strength you gave when no one thanked you. All of it has been gathered, transformed, and set into your eternal crown of honor. Chosen one, you have come far. Every word you have heard until now has been a thread woven into a larger tapestry, one that reveals your calling, your struggle, and your victory. And now you must hold fast to this truth. What you began, you must continue until the very end. Faith is not a sprint, it is a race of endurance. It is not measured by how quickly you start, but by how faithfully you finish. Many begin with passion, with fire in their hearts. But when storms arise, they falter. Yet the ones who endure, the ones who hold their torch, even when the night stretches long, those are the ones who step into eternal glory. The writer of Hebrews reminds us in chapter 10, verse 36, you need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. Perseverance is not glamorous, but it is the path to promise. Without it, the harvest cannot come. With it, the reward is certain. Imagine a farmer who plants in spring but abandons the field in summer because the crop has not yet appeared. His seed was not wasted, but his patience failed. So too, chosen one, your obedience must be paired with endurance. The harvest is already forming beneath the surface, and you must keep tending until it rises into sight. There was once a woman who endured decades of waiting for her prayers to be answered. Seasons came and went, and hope often grew thin. Yet she chose not to let go. In her final years, she saw her family restored, her children walking in light, her community touched by grace. The long years were not wasted. They were the soil that produced her testimony. Perseverance crowned her life with meaning. You may not see the full picture yet, but trust this, God is not finished. Every act you performed, every battle you fought, every tear you shed, they are all part of the final chapter. Your story is not measured by single days, but by the faith that endures to the last breath. Picture a lamp burning through the night. Its flame flickers, sometimes weak, sometimes bright, but it does not go out. And when the dawn arrives, its light has done its work. It has kept the darkness from swallowing the room. Your faith is that lamp, however small it may feel, however weary you may become. Its endurance carries you until the dawn of eternity. Chosen one. Your crown is waiting. Your record is sealed. And your legacy is forming, even now. Do not let the enemy persuade you that it is in vain. Do not let discouragement tell you that it is too late. The story is still being written. And as long as you breathe, you are still moving toward the finish line. And when you finally cross that line, you will not walk alone. Heaven's hosts will rise in celebration. The Father will welcome you with joy. And the words you long to hear will echo through eternity. Well done, good and faithful servant. No, so continue. Chosen one, until the very end. Continue, for your perseverance is the bridge between today's obedience and tomorrow's eternal glory. Chosen one. The end of your journey will not be marked by exhaustion, but by fulfillment. When you look back, you will see that even the hardest valleys were steps on a staircase leading you higher. Each trial was not a detour, but part of the path. Think of a book whose final chapter ties together every thread. Characters who seemed forgotten reappear. Mysteries are resolved, and the story finally makes sense. Your life is that book. The author has not left a single detail wasted, and the last chapter will reveal his perfect design. Do not fear the unknown ahead. What seems uncertain to you is already written in God's eternal plan. You are walking on ground He has prepared, and no step is outside His gaze. Every moment brings you closer to the fullness of His promise, and when your race is complete, your story will not end in silence. It will rise like a song sung by angels, echoing in eternity. Your faith will be remembered not as fragile, but as unbreakable, because you endured until the end. So hold firm. Continue in faith, in love, in perseverance. The finish line is not a wall, but a doorway. And beyond it lies the glory prepared for you since the foundation of the world. Chosen one. This is where our journey in these words pauses. But your journey in faith does not. You have walked through fire, through silence, through hidden battles, and through moments when only heaven saw your obedience. And through it all, God's eyes never left you. You are not ordinary. You are chosen. And the story written through your life is still unfolding with beauty and purpose. Now, I want to leave you with this. What we build here is not for one soul alone, but for a family of light scattered across the earth. And this family grows every time you choose to add your spark. When you press like, it is not just a button, it is you saying, I stand with this light. When you share, you are like a messenger carrying a torch into another heart's night. When you comment, you are leaving a stone on the path, so someone walking after you knows they are not alone. When you subscribe, you are choosing to remain by the fire, ensuring you will not miss the next flame that heaven releases. And for those who feel stirred to donate, hear this clearly. It is not obligation, not demand. It is simply an act of beauty, like pouring water into a well so that others may drink. You may never meet the thirsty soul who draws from it, but one day heaven will show you the faces of those who lived because of your generosity. Think of it also as joining a great garden. When you like, you plant a seed. When you share, you scatter those seeds to fields unseen. When you comment, you water the soil with encouragement. When you subscribe, you remain as a gardener who returns to care for the growth. And when you donate, You become the hand that provides sunlight, ensuring that the garden not only grows, but flourishes. So, chosen one, let us continue together. Let us tend this fire, polish this lantern, carry this torch, and cultivate this garden. And may every act you make here, whether by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, or giving, be your free and joyful offering to the God who has already rejoiced over you. God sees, heaven records, and the light we tend together will shine long after this moment has passed.